Okay, this is going to be the review video for Unit 3B. And unlike normally, I'm going to go over both the A and the B problems, just because I know a lot of you may be out of class and I still want you to be able to see all of the examples worked out. All right, so for 1A, it gives us a table and it says write an equation that represents the best fit line for the data in the table. So this is where you're going to be using Desmos or a graphing calculator if you're in a class that's not mine, maybe. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the star Desmos, and then you're going to hit the plus, and then we add a table. So from here, we're just going to type in the data that was given to us in the table on the review. So the age, that's going to be our x values. It's on the left. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, oh, not 2, 3, 3, 4, 6, 8, and then 10. And then for our y values, it's going to be 2.5, 7.6. So make sure you're typing these in exactly how you see them, or else you will get the wrong answer. So 12.5, 17.1, 24.3, 37.9. See, don't be like me. Don't type in the wrong numbers. And lastly, 49.2. And it's a good idea, double check to make sure everything is completely as you see it on the table they give you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2.5, 7.6, 12.5, 17.1, 24.3, 37. Okay, so once your table is completely filled out and it matches the table that we have on our paper, you're going to go down to Y2. And from here, we're going to need to use our letters. So remember, every single time here, you're going to type in Y1. And then we need this little squiggle, not an equal sign, it has to be a squiggle. Then M, then X1, then plus B. So this is basically slope-intercept form, except we're using Y1 and X1, and we're also using a squiggle instead of an equal sign. And once you do that, it's going to give you all of the information that we need. So notice it gives us the M and it gives us a B value. Those are going to be the ones that we're going to use to write our equation. So our M is going to be 5.098. Let me come back here and we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. So it's going to be Y equals MX plus B is the form we're using. So here would be Y equals, and I'm looking for my M value. My M value again is 5.098. You just need 3 decimal places. So Y equals 5.098. Then we put the X. Now the other part of this that we need is B, which is also given to us. It says B equals negative 3.179. So come here. Negative 3.179. So you just copy the M and the B that they give you, making sure you have 3 decimal places in your answer. So I'm going to double check. 5.098, good, and negative 3.179. All right, so that would be our equation that best fits the data. Now the second question says use the line of best fit to predict the weight for someone who is 20 years old. Okay, so 20 years old. Actually, we're going to change this to not be months. That just makes it a little bit harder. We're going to put this in years. So when they're 20 years old, what we're going to do is we're going to replace our x value with a 20. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to click on the third box, and I'm just going to type in the equation we just found. So y equals, then I'm going to use 5.098 because that's what we found our m to be before. And then instead of an x, since we're looking for 20 years, I'm going to write a 20 instead of an x. And then I'm going to keep the same b that I had before, so minus 3.179. And then notice the y value it gives you, that's your answer. So ours would be 98.781. So our answer here would be 98.781 pounds. So we're basically using the equation we just found to predict the weight for 20 years old. All right, now we need the correlation coefficient. And remember, this is going to be the R value. So we're looking back at Desmos to see if we can find the R. And if we look underneath R squared, we have R equals 0.996. And we're just going to copy that exactly. Say R equals 0.996. And we only need 3 decimal places again, so that's good. All right, and the last thing we need to see is what type of correlation does this represent? So this is looking for either positive, negative, or no correlation. And if we remember back to when we learned this, positive correlation, this is a positive number. So if this is a positive number, it's going to be a positive correlation. And remember, positive correlations were just a bunch of dots going upwards. And I bet if we look back at Desmos, if we zoom out, we can see that all of our dots are going upwards. So that makes sense. It's a positive correlation here. All right, I'm going to go on to 2A now. So 2A wants to know, does the following situation represent causation? So remember, causation is when one thing absolutely causes the other one to happen. And with causation, let's read this little sentence. It says, the more zeros there are in the grade book, the lower the student's grade is. So are we certain that the number of zeros in the grade book causes their grade to be lower? Since the answer here is yes, this one would be, oops, don't know why that's so big. All right, so it's going to be causation. Since there is definitely a cause and effect relationship there, that's what makes it causation. 3A, we need to write an equation of the line parallel to this one, and it has to go through this point to 16. So remember, parallel, that's going to mean the same slope. So our slope we know needs to be the same exact as that line, which happens to be 5. And then it has to go through the point to 16, so that would be our x and a y value. Now we're just going to use point slope form to get this into slope intercept form. So I'd have our base equation, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Then I'm going to replace everything. So I get y minus, my y value is 16. My m value is 5. Then x minus, my x value is 2. Then I just have to distribute, so 5 times x, 5 times negative 2. And we get 5 minus 16 equals 5x. 5 times negative 2 would be negative 10. Last step is to get rid of this positive 16 by adding it to both sides. I'm going to get rid of the negative 16 by adding 16. My bad. So then our answer would just be y equals 5x. The negative 10 plus 6 would be plus 6. So that right there would be our answer. Y equals 5x plus 6. Okay, number 4 says write the slope of an equation that is parallel to y equals 7x plus 4. So all we need this time is the slope, not the actual line. Basically, all we have to do is look at what the slope of this line is. And we can see that the number in front of the x, that's our m, is a 7. So the slope parallel to this line has to be the same, which means both of the slopes should be 7. Five says write the equation of a line that is parallel to the y-axis and passes through the point 2, 3. All right, so we're going to sketch a graph here. So here's my axis. It's my x and my y. Now I want something parallel to the y-axis. So let's look. Here's going to be our y-axis right here. I need something parallel to that. So what I'm going to do, we know it's going to be something like this. This isn't our line yet, but we know it's going to have to look like that. So I'm going to erase this line real quick. And it also tells us it needs to go through the point 2, 3. So let's plot the point 2, 3. So that'd be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So let's say this point right here, that's going to be 2, 3. Now what I need is a parallel line to the y-axis through this point. So it's going to be something like this. Now this would be an undefined slope here. And like we learned before, undefined slope is always x equals some number. Well, we just have to look at the x of our point, and the x of our point happens to be 2. So our equation would be x equals 2. So drawing a picture here really helps us to get our answer. Okay, 6a, write an equation of a line perpendicular to y plus 1 equals 5/3 x minus 4, and it has to go through the point 5, negative 11. So what I'm going to do here, first off, we need to find the new slope. So perpendicular to 5 over 3, this one's positive, so the new slope has to be negative. And then we flip the fraction, so 5 over 3 would become 3 over 5. That's going to be our new slope, and we have to use this x value and that y value. Using point slope again, so we have y minus, my y value is negative 11, equals, slope is negative 3/5 times x minus 5. Then I distribute the negative 3/5. And then this will also become minus a negative would be positive, so y plus 11. Negative 3/5 times x is just negative 3/5 x. Negative 3/5 times negative 5. So I'm going to come to the side over here. Let's look at negative 3/5 times negative 5. And that would really be negative 5 over 1. So when you multiply this, we're going to multiply the top together. So negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. 5 times 1 is positive 5. Then we just have to divide 15 and 5, and we get a positive 3. Now my last step would just be to get rid of this positive 11 by subtracting 11. So those positive and negative 11 will cancel out, and we get y equals negative 3/5 x. 3 minus 11 would be negative 8. So that right there would be our equation. Now our last A problem, we have to write another equation, so I'm going to need Desmos again. So let's go back to Desmos. And one very important thing, you need to clear out all of the old problem that we did. If you don't clear it out, it's going to mess up our x1 and y1. So I'm just going to clear everything out every time. Then I'm going to add a table again. And I'm just going to fill it in with the information in the table. So our first x value would be 1980. Then 1985. 1990. 1995, and 2000. Then our y values would be 14, 20, 22, 28, 37. So now our table is completely right. Double check it. Then we click on the to box, and we're going to write the same thing that we did last time. So it's going to be y1, oops. Then we need the squiggle, then m times x1 plus b. So you're always going to type that same thing in. You just need to memorize y1 squiggle m x1 plus b. Now if we look, it gives us our m and our b value. So m would be 1.08, b would be negative 2,125. All right, so I come here, my line of best fit, we're just going to use that m and the b, so y equals, again my m was 1.08, and then my b value was negative 2,125. And the last thing I need is the correlation coefficient, which is our R value. So if we go back to Desmos and look, we see the R value is 0.978. So I just write R equals 0.978. And this one doesn't ask us, but that is another positive correlation. All right, so that's going to be all of the A problems. If you haven't done the B problems yet, I strongly recommend you try them by yourself before you watch the rest of the video. So pause this. Please go watch the rest of the video. Make sure you can try it on your own, see if you can get them, because that's how you learn, is trying it by yourself. But I'm going to go back and do all the B problems now. Just a second, though. All right. So for 1B, this one is going to be another regression. We're going to need Desmos again. So back to Desmos. Notice on this one, it's not a left side, right side table. There's a top and a bottom. So the top's going to be X. The Y is going to be the bottom. Go back to Desmos. And again, clear it out every single time. And then I'm going to add a table. My X values are going to be 85, 75, 92, 100, 89, 96. And then my Y values are 22, 8, 36, 42, 24, and 40. So once the table is correct, we're still going to type in y1, squiggle, then m, x1, plus b. Then if we look, it tells us our m and our b value. So m is 1.448. So go back here. I know my m, so y equals, I already forgot it, 1.448. 1.448. Don't forget the x. Now we need our b value. So looking at the b it gives us, it's negative 100.93. So negative 100.93. And notice this one only gave us 2 decimal places, so it's okay not to have 3. If you want to put a 0 there, that works too. The second one says, use the line of best fit to predict the number of snow cones sold if it was 110 degrees. So here we're going to click on the third box. We're going to use our equation that we found before, but we're going to replace our x with what it wants us to predict. So we're going to replace it with this 110. So we're going to have y equals, I'm going to use my m value, so 1.448, then parentheses. We were trying to predict 110, so I'll replace the x with the 110, then minus 100.93. Then it gives us the y value. So if it was 110 degrees out, it would be 58.35 snow cones. So 58.35, I'm just going to write that right here. And technically you can't have 0.35 of a snow cone, so you could round this down to be about 58 snow cones. All right, then we need our correlation coefficient. That's going to be our R. So if I go back and look, it says R is 0.978. So I'll just write R equals 0.978, and that's our answer. And this is going to be, it's a positive R value. That makes it a positive correlation. But an example, so let's say that our R value was negative 0.958. If it was negative like that, this would be a negative correlation. So if your R is positive, positive correlation, meaning the dots are going upwards. If it's negative, that means your dots would be going downwards, and it would be a negative correlation. All right, 2B, does the following represent causation? So when the temperature decreases, more people will pass their Algebra 1 test. So there's no way to say that when the temperature decreases, there's a definite link that says that causes more people to pass their Algebra 1 test. So this is going to be not causation. But we call that association. So there's no definite cause and effect there. That's what makes it not causation. You have to be absolutely certain that one thing causes the other one to happen for it to be causation. All right, 3, write an equation of the line perpendicular to y equals negative 1/5 x minus 4 through this point. So for perpendicular, we know our slope is going to be opposite reciprocal. This one is negative. That means the new one is going to be a positive. So it's going to be a positive, and we're going to flip our fraction to make it positive 5/1. or just 5. And it has to go through that point. So again, I'm going to use point slope form. So it'd be y minus -4 equals, my new slope's going to be 5, then x minus -2. So remember, when we have minus a negative, it becomes a plus. So it would really be y plus 4 equals 5 times x plus 2. Then I distribute it, and we get y plus 4 equals 5x plus 10. Then subtract 4 from both sides, which means the final answer here would be y equals 5x plus 6. And that would be our answer. Okay, on to 4b. Write the slope of an equation that's perpendicular to 7x. So here, we know our slope here is going to be a 7. So that's a positive 7. That means the perpendicular slope has to be a negative. And this one's really 7 over 1. So we'll flip that fraction and make it 1 over 7. So the perpendicular slope would be the opposite reciprocal, making it -1 over 7. For 5b, we're going to write the equation of a line that is perpendicular to the y-axis and passes through the point 5, 9. So we're going to do what we did in 5a. I'm going to draw a picture. And we want it to be perpendicular to the y-axis. Again, this one is the y-axis, so we need something perpendicular to that. And perpendicular to this would have to be a 0 slope. So we need to find a 0 slope that goes through the point 5, 9. So again, oops, too far. I'm going to plot the point 5, 9. So that's going to be somewhere around here. We'll just call this 5, 9. This is just sketching a picture of it. We need a line that has a 0 slope going through it. So let's say this one right here. So anytime we have a 0 slope, we know it's going to be y equals some number instead of when it's undefined where it's x equals. So y equals, we just look at the y value of our point, which would be 9. So y equals 9 would be the equation there. All right, 6b, write the equation of a line parallel to this one through that point. So parallel, that means the slope's going to be the same as this one. So we know our slope would be 5 over 3. And then we have to go through the point 3, -11. So we're going to have y minus -11 equals, my slope is 5 over 3, then x minus 3. Then I distribute. Y minus -11 becomes y plus 11. 5 over 3 times x would be 5/3 x. Now again, I'm going to come to the side to multiply 5 over 3 times -3 over 1, because that's what this -3 would really be. Multiply the top first, and I get -15. Multiply the bottom, and I get 3. -15 divided by +3 would really be -5. So that would be -5. Then my last step here would be to get rid of this +11 by subtracting 11. So I'd get y equals 5/3 x minus 16. And the last one, 7b. So this is another where we have to use Desmos to write the line of best fit. So I'm going to clear out the old stuff that I have and add a new table. And then I'm just going to type it in exactly how it is on the review. So 1971, 1976, 1980, 1984, 1989, 1993, 1997, and 2000. Then our Y values, 42.4, 37.4, 37.1, 34.1, 32.1, 28.8, 25.7, and 25.5. So double check, make sure they're all right. And then we go to the Y2 box, and I'm going to type in the same thing I always type in, Y1, then the squiggle, then M times X1 plus B. And there's our answers. So M is going to be negative 0.580. So I come here, Y equals negative 0.580, then an X. And then my B value is 1185.09. So 1185.09. And that would be the equation for our best fit line. Now, what is the correlation coefficient? I go back and I look at R. This time R is negative 0.990. So it would be negative 0.990. So this would be a case of a negative correlation because our R value is negative. And that's going to be the whole review.